Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Nikita Bhargav, and today on the Red Pod YouTube channel, I bring to you a wonderful, romantic, full of passion and drama, a love story. Tragic, yes, but beautiful love story. One of my favorites, and I've been looking forward to narrating this one to all of you. And it is Sohni Mahiwal, and I'm going to try something right now. Bear with me because, as you guys have realized, I'm still learning and I'm not yet figured out how to do the edit and so how to interject images in the middle of it. So I'm just going to quickly, I've downloaded a picture of Sony. I'll keep trying to do that, so bear with me. Okay, so Mahiwal is actually not the name of a hero. Mahiwal is the word for someone who herds water buffaloes. And this story is based in beautiful Punjab, in the fields of mustard. So can you visualize those yellow beautiful flowers and fields of it? Somewhere near the river Chenab. And if you Google and check out the images, it's a pretty decent sized river, because I've heard this story ever since I was a child, and I even got to see the film based on it, and it was one of my favorite films. It has beautiful songs. If you're into Bollywood films, do check it out. The entire film is available on YouTube, and it is one of those stories which is, it's so beautiful. The landscape, there's a river there, and the backdrop is so humble. And so let's get started. Now Sony is called Sony because when she was born, she was so beautiful, and Sony basically means beautiful. So she was born to a potter named Tula, and he was very well known for his hand painted pots that he used to, earthenware pots which he used to make, and he used to sell them. And as Sony grew, she became equally adept at this art. And not only that, she used to paint the pots so beautifully on the outside. Towards the end, I'm going to again kind of show you the picture because I've downloaded something, but let's see how it goes. So Sony, she has also become very accomplished potter, and she paints all those beautiful pots, and people come from far and wide to buy the pots that she has been painting and making, and she works with her father. This story for me is very intriguing and of value for several reasons. One of them being this, that she's not a typical girl, she's a working girl, and she's talented, she's independent in a sort of way, So our story, Mirza is not from India, and he comes to Punjab. Our hero is called Mirza Beg, and he's actually from Bukhara in Uzbekistan, and he comes from a very wealthy family. He's like literally a prince, and the story goes that he had this strange voice, or this calling inside of him to go to India, and not very specific. So if you think your angels are not giving you proper guidance, imagine he was just told go to India. Okay, so he came along with a caravan, and first he went to Delhi, and it didn't feel right to him. So from there he continued on with another caravan and reached Lahore. And from there, he went on to go to Punjab and by reached the village where Sohni was busy painting her earthen pots and selling them. And Mirza, a little bit about him, he was a very generous hearted, open hearted, loving, very brave man. And as we can imagine from the area that he comes from, he was obviously very well built, and he was from an aristocratic family, very wealthy. And why this is important, you'll understand as we proceed in the story. And so now one day, Mirza chances upon Sohni while she is completely engrossed in her work, and he can't take his eyes off. Remember, I told you there's something about twin flames meeting of the eyes, and he just can't take his eyes off her, and he is totally in love. And and Sohni looks at him too, and she feels something, and she's intrigued. There's something there. And so Mahiwal starts buying pots from her, and as an excuse to see her, because he just can't stay away and he keeps wanting to see her again. So he keeps going to buy new pots every day. And it is so sad that he also learned how to do pottery from Sohni so that he could spend some more time with her. Certain versions say that he had run out of money because he had assisted a slave and bought his freedom, and also bought a few other his travels. He had run out of money, and so Sohni's father kind of hired him to herd his water buffaloes, and that's how he became Mahiwal. In another version, it is that he had ended up buying those water buffaloes so that he could hang around that village, and he became a Mahiwal. Whatever the reason might be, soon he had no money. And but he got to spend a lot of time with Sohni, and on the pretext of learning pottery from her. And Sohni had also fallen madly in love with Mirza, a Mahiwal. And so, after many moons of sweet nothings and of their romance blossoming and them being totally in love with each other, Sohni's mother starts to notice a difference in the daughter, and that she's very chirpy and bubbly, and she's always, when she used to go away to meet Mirza. So she asked her what's going on, and as in all honesty and with purity of heart, Sohni didn't lie. She very openly told her mother, I'm in love, and I'm in love with Mirza. And he was an outsider. He's from another country, most likely from a different religion. That did not go down too well, as you can imagine. And so, Sohni's father decides to get her married off to another potter from his community. And as was the case, at that time it didn't really matter what the girl wanted. It's not really changed for a lot of them, but thankfully for a lot of us it has changed. And so Sohni is married off, and Mirza cannot believe it. And in fact, in one version they tell of how he tried to come and prevent the marriage, but he was fought off and in fact left very injured, as Sohni was forcefully married off. So now what Mirza does is he goes and he figures out where Sohni's new house is, and on the opposite side of the bank if her house is here across the river on the opposite bank, he starts living there without anything. Now here comes, he was an aristocrat, so rich that he was almost a prince. He left his country, his family, his wealth. He could have easily gone back to a life of comfort. But he chose to live in near penury with no physical material possessions whatsoever to speak of, just so he could see his beloved every day, as she would perhaps come out to do her chores or fill water in her earthen pots. And Sohni loves him equally, right? So when she realizes that he is just across the bank, now Sohni does not know how to swim. So what she does is takes a large earthen pot and turns it upside down and kind of uses it like a life jacket or a buoy, and uses it to cross the river every night after everyone in the household has gone to sleep. And then towards when she's crossed 3/4, Mirza would help her, and they would meet and they would spend time together. Now Mirza used to wait, and he used to, try and catch fish for his beloved and roast it over a kind of mini bonfire. And he would serve it to her when she came, because she used to love that. And as the story goes, the meetings continued, and they were engrossed in each other's love. And every night Sohni would just use her upside down earthen pot and reach Mirza Mahiwal. But twist in the tale, by and by, the sister-in-law of Sohni, who anyway didn't like her because Sohni was so beautiful, she one night followed Sohni and realized that Sohni is still meeting her old lover. And now what happens is, one of these nights, as the seasons are changing, Mahiwal is finding it harder and harder to catch fish. And one night when he hasn't caught any fish, what he does is he cuts off a chunk from his thigh and roasts that for Sohni, because he wants to have something to offer her when she comes. And so when Sohni comes and she tastes the flesh, and she's like, there's something different about it, and as she's talking, she happens to keep her hand on his thigh and realizes what he has done, and she is filled with love but is heartbroken that her beloved would injure himself like this. Now there were no doctors or surgeons, obviously, or whatever. It must have been terrible. So now that the sister-in-law of Sohni has seen her and realizes how Sohni crosses the river every night, and now it's monsoon season, the waters have risen and the waves are really high and violent. And the sister-in-law replaces that earthen pot with one that has not been baked. And so, in the middle of the night when Sohni comes and it's very dark, she takes the unbaked earthen pot, not realizing it's been replaced. And despite the flooded waters of River Chenab, she jumps in because she wants to meet her beloved. But by and by, as she is right in the middle, the earthen pot starts dissolving. It's not been baked. And she yells out to Mirza. And by the time, because of the storm and rain and whatever, by the time Mirza realizes that Sohni is drowning, and remember, now he has got almost a festering wound, and although he was a very strong swimmer, When even he tries, he's unable to because of his excruciating pain, and they both drown and die. But they die together, and so a lot of versions have Mahiwal holding Sohni, and then he also gives into death, probably from infection and exhaustion, broken heart, whatever it might be. But this beautiful tale from Punjab, as tumultuous and as beautiful as the landscapes of Punjab itself, is not really very well known outside of India. And so, for my viewers, I have brought this tale to remind you of the power of true love that does not believe in restrictions or institutions that are man made, where love has the highest place and position, and those two hearts that love each other so much, no boundaries, no institutions, no rules and morality made by man is ever going to supersede or stop them from being with their beloved, or wanting to be with their beloved and expressing their love. We'll analyze this story in a different episode, because I wish for these stories to be seen by whoever wishes to, and I am looking forward for your subscriptions, likes, comments and shares. Please keep them coming. God bless you. I leave you with a lot of love and light. This is Nikita Bhargav.